Story 1. He was cheating on me with my friend. It all started with a hair tie. A stupid, pink, glittery hair tie sitting on the passenger seat of Jake's car. It wasn't mine. I hadn't worn glitter since 8th grade. And even if I had, I would have remembered leaving something like that in his car. Stood out too much, like a neon sign screaming, "Not yours." I didn't say anything at first. Maybe it belonged to his sister, or maybe he gave someone a ride. I told myself that. I wanted to believe that, but the knot in my stomach, it had already started to tighten. Jake and I had been dating for 2 years. We met during orientation at university. I was awkward and overwhelmed. And he was charming in that golden retriever kind of way. Blonde, always smiling, always with his baseball cap turned backward like he was stuck in high school. I used to find it cute. Back then, everything about him felt like comfort. We were good together. At least, I thought we were. He'd show up with coffee before my exams, write dumb little notes on napkins, and hide them in my backpack. Send me TikToks he knew would make me laugh. We had our routines, our inside jokes. He even talked about moving in together after graduation. So yeah, Kai didn't want to be suspicious over a stupid hair tie. But once you start noticing something, it's impossible to stop the next weird thing. Happened at a party a week later. Was hosted by my friend group. Just a casual night of drinks, music, and way too much shouting over each other. My best friend, Lily, was there too. We'd known each other since high school. She was the kind of girl everyone noticed. Bright green eyes, perfect skin, always dressed like she stepped out of a Pinterest board. Jake liked her. Of course he did. Everyone liked Lily. But that night, I noticed how his eyes lingered on her. Not in the casual way you look at a friend. Not in a normal, harmless way. This was something else. She laughed at one of his jokes, some stupid thing about the professor who looked like a turtle, and touched his arm. It wasn't much, it could have been nothing, but I knew her, and I knew Jake, and I saw the way his body leaned toward hers, the way his smile changed just slightly when he looked at her. That was the night. I let the first crack in. I didn't say anything, not yet, but I stopped laughing when he told that joke, and I didn't sit beside him on the couch like I normally would. Instead, I watched and waited, because something in me had already shifted. And deep down, I think I already knew the truth. A few days passed. I tried to brush it off, the party, the hair tie, the subtle shifts in his attention, but it was like trying to ignore a leaking faucet. Drip, drip. Eventually, it gets too loud to sleep through. We still talked every day. He still called me babe and sent me goodnight texts with little heart emojis. But I started to notice other things I would have ignored before. He wasn't as quick to respond. He'd leave me unread for hours with no explanation. He started working late more often. And when I asked what he'd been up to, his answers were ... shallow, general, vague, just hanging out with the guys, busy with work stuff, thing much, really. But his voice had a hollowness to it, like he was just repeating lines he'd already rehearsed. Then came the weekend I couldn't shake. It was a Saturday. Lily had bailed on our brunch plans last minute, said she had a headache and needed to rest. I didn't think much of it. People cancel, right? That night, I called Jake to see if he wanted to hang out, maybe order takeout and watch something. Mindless, he didn't answer. Texted me 2 hours later. Sorry, babe. Fell asleep, lol. Long day, rain check. It was the law that did it. That fake, throwaway law, like a band-aid over a bullet hole. Something told me to check Lily's Instagram. Her stories were blank. Nothing new. But I noticed something strange. She'd recently posted a pic that was quickly deleted. Only knew because I'd seen the notification pop up earlier in the day. A boomerang of her clinking glasses with someone. The frame was tight, cropped intentionally. But I remembered the shirt sleeve on the person next to her. A gray hoodie with a little embroidered wave on the cuff. Jake had that hoodie. He wore it all the time. I didn't say anything that night. I just lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my chest tight like I couldn't take a full breath. My mind ran in loops, connecting dots I didn't want to see forming. The next morning, I texted Lily, feeling better? No reply, not for hours. When she finally answered, she said, yeah, just needed a day to myself. Cute, casual, distant, like she was hiding behind that little pink heart. I couldn't take it anymore, so I decided to do something I never thought I would. I went through Jake's phone. I didn't plan to go through his phone. It wasn't some scheming move I'd rehearsed in my head. It just happened. He came over Sunday night, acting like everything was normal. He brought Thai food and kissed me on the forehead like he always did, smiled like he wasn't hiding a single thing. I stared at that smile, wondering how long it had been fake. After dinner, he passed out on the couch while we were watching some dumb action movie. His phone buzzed twice in a row, not loud, but just enough to catch my attention. The name that lit up the screen, Lily. My stomach dropped. The second notification was a photo. The preview was blurred, but I saw enough to know it was a selfie. Probably one she'd sent through Snapchat, but it had forwarded to iMessage too. Something I'm guessing she didn't realize. I didn't even hesitate. I reached for his phone, hands sweating, heart pounding so hard I could barely hear anything. Else, I knew his passcode, 0609, his birthday, the same date I'd once baked into cupcakes for him. Like some kind of idiot, the phone unlocked, and there it was, a full thread of texts with Lily. Messages going back weeks. FLIRTY emojis. Inside jokes I wasn't part of. Nicknames like Trouble and Golden Boy. Pictures, plans, late night miss us, an early morning wish I woke up next to us. And the worst part? The TIMESTAMPS. All the times he'd claimed to be asleep or busy or just with the guys he'd been texting her. Meeting up, lying to me with ease. I clicked on a message from last weekend, the night Lily had canceled brunch and Jake had fallen asleep. Lily, you still taste like cinnamon toothpaste. I felt like I was going to throw up. I scrolled further, my eyes blurry but glued to the screen. They'd been sleeping together more than once. Sometimes in my apartment when I wasn't home. Sometimes at hers while I was texting her, asking if she was okay. They'd even joked about how clueless I was. Jake had sent a message 2 days earlier. I think she suspects something lol, but she won't do anything. That lol again. It's that same fake smug lol he always used to brush things off. My jaw clenched so tight I thought it might crack. I sat there staring at the screen, watching the evidence of my betrayal scroll past like some horror movie, written just for me. And then Jake stirred. He stretched, yawned, blinked, and looked straight at me, his phone in my hand. For a moment, there was just silence. Then he said, "What are you doing?" My voice came out low, flat. "Reading what you thought I'd never find." His face changed instantly, not with guilt, not with panic, but with that guarded calculation people get when they realize the game's up and they're already looking for an escape route. He sat up, rubbing his eyes like he could stall his way out of it. "Okay, look, I can explain." I laughed. Cool, actually laughed. A sharp, dry sound that barely sounded like me. "You want to explain how you've been sleeping with my best friend?" He winced at that. "It wasn't like that." "No," I said, holding the phone up, "because from what I've read, it sounds exactly like that. Cinnamon toothpaste, Jake. Seriously?" He ran a hand through his hair, already standing up, already pacing. "Ha, I didn't mean for this to happen. It started small, and then you didn't mean to cheat." I cut him off. "Is that what you're going with?" The oops, I tripped and fell into her bed defense. He sighed, that heavy, dramatic sigh men always use when they want to look like they're the ones hurting. I didn't want to hurt you, but you did, I snapped, repeatedly. And not just with some random girl, with Lily. You knew what she meant to me. That made him pause. His eyes dropped, and for a second, just a second, he looked genuinely ashamed. I didn't plan it, I swear, he mumbled. It was just. She was there, and we started talking more when you got busy with finals, and I didn't think it would go anywhere. But then you decided it was worth going somewhere, I said, behind my back. Lying to me. Lying to her, too? Or was she fully in on it? He didn't answer. I narrowed my eyes. Was she? Okay. Silence. Told me everything. My chest tightened, heat rising behind my eyes. The kind of rage that comes with betrayal you never saw coming. The kind of betrayal that makes you question everything, not just the relationship, but your own instincts, your own ability to judge the people closest to you. I stood up. Okay. My hands were shaking, but my voice stayed steady. I want you out, okay? Looked at me, startled. Wait, what? Don't be like that out. Now, I said, stepping back. You don't get to make this about how I'm reacting. You made your choices, okay? And now you can deal with the consequences. He stared at me like I was someone he didn't recognize. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe I was someone new. Someone who didn't make excuses for people who didn't respect her. He opened his mouth like he wanted to argue, but then shut it again. He grabbed his keys off the coffee table, hesitated, then walked out the door without another word. The door clicked shut behind him, and just like that, the silence felt louder than it ever had. I didn't cry. Not right away. I just stood there in the middle of my living room, staring at the door like it might open again, like he'd come back and say it was all a joke, misunderstanding, something we could laugh about one day. But it didn't open, and I didn't laugh. I sank onto the couch, my legs suddenly too heavy to hold me. The room felt cold, too still, like everything in it knew what had just happened. His scent was still on the pillow beside me, that stupid cologne he always wore, the one I used to love. I picked it up and threw it across the room. It hit the wall with a dull thud, landed upside down, and stayed there, like me, upside down. My phone buzzed. Lily, of course. Her name flashing on my screen felt like acid poured over an open wound. Hey, can we talk? I didn't answer. A minute later, another message. I didn't mean for this to happen. The exact same words Jake had used. Word for word. Was there a manual somewhere? How to apologize after you sleep with your best friend's boyfriend. Then, I didn't want to hurt you. I still love you, okay? I read that one 5 times, trying to understand what kind of twisted love that was. Because, in my world, love didn't look like sneaking behind someone's back. Love didn't mean betrayal. Love wasn't something you said after you lit someone's heart on fire. She followed it with, please don't shut me out. You're my best friend. And that was what finally made me cry. Not because it made me feel better, but because it felt like the final slap in the face. Best friend. That word used to mean something, used to feel safe, like a home. And now it felt dirty in her mouth. I threw my phone across the couch and pulled my knees to my chest. I let the tears come hot, silent, relentless. I wasn't just crying for the relationship or for Jake. I was crying for every memory I had to burn now. Every shared joke, every sleepover. Every time I told Lily things I never told anyone else. I cried until my eyes hurt, until my chest stopped heaving. And when the tears dried, something inside me clicked. I wasn't going to let this break me. I could feel the part of me that had loved them both, him as my partner, her as my sister, in everything but blood, curling up, turning to ash dot, and under that ash, something stronger was waking up. The next morning, I blocked them both. No dramatic texts. No closure conversation. No chance for either of them to spin the story in their favor. Blocked. Gone. Done. It felt quiet after that. Like walking through a house after everyone's left. Echoes of laughter still clinging to the walls, but nothing real remaining. I thought I'd feel emptier. I thought I'd wake up and fall apart all over again. But I did. I got up. I made coffee, changed the sheets, scrubbed them twice, even though I knew it wasn't the fabric that felt dirty. I opened the windows, lit a candle, and played music that didn't remind me of either of them. By the time noon rolled around, I'd gone through every drawer and corner of my apartment. Every hoodie of his, every framed photo with her, every little thing that held their fingerprints. I packed it all into a box. The photos, the gifts, the inside joke notes, even the hair tie. I sat the box on the floor and stared at it for a while. I didn't know what to do with it. Burning, it felt theatrical. Keeping it felt pathetic, so I put it in the back of my closet. Not because I wasn't ready to let go, but because I wanted to remember. Not the pain, but the lesson. That afternoon, my phone lit up again. Not from Jake or Lily, from Megan, another friend from school. We'd grown a bit distant lately, mostly because I'd spent all my time with Jake and Lily. But she must have noticed something, because her message was simple. Hey, are you okay? I stared at it for a long time before typing back. Not really. Typo B, she replied almost instantly. Want to come over tonight? Wine? Trash TV? No pressure? I smiled for the first time in days. Absolutely. That night, I sat on her couch in fuzzy socks, drinking boxed wine and watching the worst dating show imaginable. We laughed until we cried. And when I finally told her everything, the cheating, the texts, the betrayal, she didn't say, I told you so. She didn't make me feel stupid. She just said, screw them. Seriously, that's not love. That's selfish. And for the first time since it all began, I believed it. The days that followed weren't easy, but they were clear. No more second guessing. No more wondering if I was imagining things. No more waiting for someone to be who they promised to be. The truth was sharp, but at least it was solid. I could build something real on that. People started to notice something was off. My phone buzzed with random "Are you and Jake okay?" messages. One of Lily's old friends even had the audacity to DM me. Saw Jake at the gym. Is it true what I heard? I didn't reply. I wasn't going to be the curator of their gossip. Let them talk. Let them wonder. Because somewhere along the way, I stopped caring about their image. I started caring about mine. Megan and I got close again. She became my sounding board, my grocery shopping buddy, my accidental therapist. I told her everything I'd been keeping to myself for months. How I'd felt lonely even when I was with Jake. How Lily had started making little digs about my clothes or my goals. How I'd laughed them off instead of seeing them for what they were. Signs. Red flags don't always scream. Sometimes they whisper. Sometimes they giggle and pretend to be compliments. One night, over Chinese takeout, Megan looked at me and said, "You know what? Sucks. You loved them both more than they ever loved you, but you still came out of this stronger." I just nodded. I hadn't cried in days. Around week 3, I ran into Jake on campus. I was leaving the library, earbuds in, backpack slung over one shoulder, when I saw him sitting on a bench near the fountain, hoodie up, looking smaller than I remembered. I could have kept walking, pretended not to see him, but I stopped. He looked up, and his eyes widened. For a second, he looked almost relieved. "Hey," he said, standing. I pulled out one earbud. "Hey, I've been wanting to talk." I shrugged. "It's not much to say. I messed up," he said quietly. "I know you hate me." "I don't hate you," I replied. "I just don't trust you, and I don't respect you." And honestly, I don't really know you anymore. He looked like he wanted to say something else, but I didn't give him the chance. Take care of yourself, Jake. And then I walked away. I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. It's strange how quickly your world can shift after cutting out the rut. I used to think healing would feel like this big, cinematic moment, standing on a mountaintop, arms wide, sun hitting my face like a final victory. But in reality, healing looked more like Tuesday mornings with hot coffee and silence. It was texting Megan dumb memes at midnight. It was unfollowing people who made me feel small. It was journaling at 2 a.m. when my thoughts refused to sit. Still, I was learning to breathe without holding in the ache. Meanwhile, Lily had started posting more often. Pictures of lattes, her outfits, her and Jake's dog. Yes, apparently they had adopted one. She'd never posted him directly, of course, but his car would show up in the background. It's a blurry reflection of his arm in a coffee shop window, Asada, but clear enough for anyone paying attention. I wasn't paying attention. Not anymore. The part of me that once wanted to know how they were doing, to compare, to compete, to mourn what I'd lost, was gone. They didn't deserve my curiosity. They didn't deserve any more space in my mind. Still, one final message from Lily found its way through. A new number. A long paragraph. The same rehearsed guilt. I miss you. I didn't mean for it to end like this. I hope one day we can talk. She ended it with, you were the only real friend I ever had. I stared at that sentence. You don't destroy the only real friend you ever had. You protect her. You show up for her. You don't kiss her boyfriend and sleep in her sheets and lie too. Her face while calling her sis. I didn't respond. I didn't block her either. I didn't need to. Some endings don't require fire, just distance. It's quiet, permanent distance. And in that silence, I started to find myself again. I picked up old hobbies. I applied for a summer internship in a new city. I started wearing colors I used to think I couldn't pull off. I got a little tattoo on my wrist, a tiny flame. It's just for me. A reminder I survived. I walked through the fire, okay? And I didn't burn. I became it. Summer arrived like a deep breath, the kind that fills your lungs with something cleaner, something lighter. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't waking up with dread lodged in my chest. The grief had softened into memory, not painless, but manageable. I wasn't pretending anymore. I was just living. The internship took me to another city for 3 months. New skyline, new people, new streets to get lost on. I shared an apartment with 2 other girls who knew nothing about my past. No whispered rumors, no awkward sides. I got to start over, fresh, just me. It felt good to be anonymous. No one knew I'd been cheated on. No one knew I'd once cried over a boy who couldn't look me in the eye. To them, Kai was just the girl who always made tea before bed and sang along to the playlist while brushing her teeth. One of my roommates, Alina, dragged me out one night to a rooftop movie screening. I almost said no. The old version of me probably would have, but something in me wanted to say yes. To everything, we watched a cheesy rom-com under fairy lights, wrapped in cheap blankets, sipping sangria from plastic cups. I laughed until I couldn't breathe, and when the guy next to me, Will, I'd learned later, offered me a second drink and complimented my laugh, I didn't freeze. I smiled, said thank you. Let the moment exist without comparing it to any past ones, because this wasn't about Jake. It wasn't about Lily. It was about me. Me, learning to be okay again. Me, realizing I'd given so much love to people who hadn't earned it, and that it didn't make my love worthless. It made it powerful. That night, when Will asked if I wanted to go get fries after the movie, I said yes. We walked through quiet streets lit by orange lamps, shoes scuffing the pavement, talking about everything and nothing. He didn't try to kiss me. He didn't make any promises. He just listened. And I didn't feel broken. I felt real months. Later, I don't think about Jake and Lily anymore. Not in the way I used to. Their names don't sting. Their photos don't shake me. If I see them around, I don't look twice. I don't need revenge. I don't need them to apologize again. I've made peace with the fact that sometimes the people you trust most are the ones who hurt you the worst. But their betrayal taught me what loyalty should look like, what love should feel like, and more importantly, what I deserve. Not bare minimum affection, not secret messages behind my back, not someone who says, "I didn't mean to like it," erases the damage. No, I deserve honesty, effort, and respect. The kind that doesn't ask. You too beg for it. And now, living with open windows, deeper breaths, and a heart that's finally mine again. I lost them, but I found myself, and that's the best ending I could have written. Story 2. I found out through a group chat. It was a Wednesday night when everything snapped. I was curled up in bed with my laptop, scrolling through a group chat I hadn't checked in a few days. You know, the kind old friends from high school, half dead, except for the occasional meme or someone bragging about getting engaged. And then I saw it. It's photo, a blurry picture of my boyfriend holding hands with someone at a concert. The problem wasn't that he was at the concert. He told me he was working late. The problem was the girl. Her name was Tasha, and she was my friend. Well, she used to be. I stared at the photo like it might change if I blinked hard enough. The lighting was terrible. It's a kind of image that would normally be shrugged off as a coincidence, except for one small, mistakable detail. The bracelet on his wrist, blue and white beads, handmade. I gave it to Leo last winter when he was going through a rough patch. He wore it everywhere, and now he was wearing it while holding hands with Tasha in the middle of a packed stadium, smiling like the world had never hurt him. I didn't say anything in the group chat. I just watched the messages roll in. Wait, is that Leo? Isn't he dating Ava? Someone's gonna be pissed. Yeah, someone was. Someone was me. I scrolled up to the top of the chat, found the photo again, and saved it. My hands were shaking. It wasn't like I hadn't noticed something was off lately. Leo had been distant, distracted. He stopped showing up to our Thursday night dinners. Came stress when I asked why he barely touched me anymore. And Tasha, she'd gone from texting me every other day to replying with lol and ghosting on our brunch plans. But this was a level of betrayal I hadn't prepared for. I closed the group chat and opened Leo's name in my contacts, typing, deleting, typing. Again, I settled on one sentence. Want to tell me why you're holding hands with Tasha at a concert you lied about? He didn't reply. Not for 10 minutes then. Finally, Ava, it's not what you think. Oh, the classics, I called him. He answered on the second ring, his voice tired and low. Hey, you're cheating on me with Tasha. There was a pause. It's too long, then. It's not that simple. I stood up from my bed. My voice didn't even shake. Actually, it is. You lied to me, Leo, I said slowly, like I needed the words to register in his skull. You told me you were working late. Meanwhile, you're holding hands with my friend at a concert, and you knew someone from that group chat would see. He sighed. I didn't plan for it to happen like this. God, that line again. The anthem of cheaters. I walked into my kitchen, just a pace. My body couldn't sit still. When did it start? Another pause. And then he muttered, a couple months ago. I closed my eyes. We'd been together for almost a year. We'd spent Christmas at his mom's. I still had his spare keys in my drawer, next to the chapstick I thought I lost, which I now realized probably wasn't mine at all. You could have broken up with me, I said, my voice low and flat. I didn't want to hurt you. I laughed bitterly. So instead, you dragged me through your lies, and let me find out in a group chat. He had no comeback. The silence stretched, and that was it, the final nail. Not the cheating, not even the lying. It was how little he fought to fix it. Empty, the call felt like he was just ticking off a box. Confrontation with a girlfriend. Check. I shook my head. I don't want an apology, Leo. I don't want excuses. I want you to remember this moment the next time you say you're a good guy. He started to say something, but I hung up. I didn't throw anything. I didn't cry. I just stood there for a moment, phone in hand, staring out the kitchen window, like I was waiting for the world to feel different. And weirdly, it did, because even though my heart hurt like hell, I knew one thing for sure. I wasn't the one who lost something valuable. They were. That night, I blocked them both. Leo, Tasha, phone, Instagram, Snapchat, even Venmo. I didn't want a single notification carrying their names into my life ever again. I deleted our photos, our texts, the shared playlists, everything. It felt brutal and mechanical and completely necessary. I didn't even tell them I was doing it. I wasn't giving them the satisfaction of watching me fall apart. The next morning, I woke up to sunshine leaking through my curtains and the kind of silence that used to feel lonely, but now felt like relief. Clean, empty, in a good way. I opened my journal. I hadn't written in weeks, maybe months, but now the words came fast, like they've been waiting. I will never beg to be chosen again. That was the line I underlined 3 times. Over the next few days, word spread. Mutual friends started texting Ava. Are you okay? I can't believe they did that to you. We had no idea. A few people sent screenshots, messages Tasha had posted on her private story. Vague captions, like people love to twist things when they're hurt. And sometimes you meet someone who makes you realize you were in the wrong relationship all along. I didn't reply to any of it. Let her play the victim. Let them pretend their betrayal was destiny instead of a choice. I knew the truth, and the people who mattered. They knew it too. I grabbed dinner with Simone, one of my closest friends, who'd drifted a bit because I was always choosing Leo's plans over hers. She didn't say, I told you so. She just let me vent over tacos and margaritas and said, you're allowed to mourn, but you don't owe them your pain. She was right. I had loved deeply, trusted fully. And that's not something to be embarrassed about. That's something to be proud of. Because when you love with your whole heart and someone still breaks it, it says nothing about you, but it says everything about them. A week later, got a message request on Instagram. It was from an account with no profile picture, no posts, just the username. Truth hurts, too. I almost deleted it without opening it. But curiosity got the better of me. Inside was one sentence. He did the same thing to his ex before you. I blinked at the screen. No, hello, no explanation. Just that. At first, I thought it might be fake. Someone trolling or stirring the pot, but something about the way it was written, the weight behind the words. It felt real, raw, and suddenly, it all made sense. Leo wasn't just someone who cheated. He was someone who cheated consistently. Someone who built comfort just to tear it down. He had a pattern, and I had simply been the next chapter. I thought I was special. He treated me like I was, but really, I was just the latest girl to fall for his curated charm, the texts, the forehead kisses, the half-planned futures. And Tasha, she'd feel special now, sure, but one day she'd be on the other side of the story, unless she already was. I didn't reply. I didn't even feel angry, just validated. Like finally, the story I'd been living had a history, and I wasn't crazy or paranoid, or dramatic. I was just one of many people he hurt, and now I was one of the few who walked away from it. That night, I took myself to the movies, alone, something I'd always wanted to do, but never had the courage for. Got a ticket for a cheesy comedy, bought overpriced popcorn, and sat in the back row. And when the credits rolled, I smiled. Not because the movie was good. It wasn't. But because I didn't need anyone sitting beside me to enjoy it. I was learning to be enough for myself. And that was a story I was proud to be in. The next few months were quiet, not boring, not lonely, just calm. I started sleeping better, eating better. I went on walks with no destination, letting the wind tug at my sleeves and the sun warm my skin. I stopped checking my phone every few minutes. The silence that used to feel like abandonment now felt like peace. I started saying yes to things I'd always said no to. A pottery class on Wednesday nights. An open mic where I read a poem I hadn't let anyone hear before. A hiking trip with coworkers I barely knew. It was like I was discovering parts of myself I'd tucked away while I was too busy making space for Leo. In one afternoon, while standing in line at the bookstore, someone tapped me on the shoulder. It was Jonah, a guy I'd had chemistry with in college, but never pursued because, well, Leo had entered the picture. He smiled. Ava, right? We talked for 10 minutes, maybe 15. It was easy, natural. At one point, he looked at me and said, "You seem different, happier." I didn't flinch. "I am," I said. He gave me his number. I didn't rush to text him. This time, I was doing things on my timeline. That night, I opened my journal again, flipped back to the page I'd written after the breakup. The one that said, "I will never beg to be chosen again." And beneath it, I added, "Because I choose myself first now, always." I never needed Leo's love to be whole. I just needed my own. A few weeks later, got coffee with Jonah. It wasn't a date, not officially, but there was that flicker in the air. It's that quiet energy that hums when something has the potential to begin. He asked questions and actually listened. No wandering eyes, no fake laughs, just presence. We talked about everything from terrible college roommates to books that changed us. When I told him about the pottery class, his eyes lit up. "So cool," he said. "People don't do stuff like that enough. Think just for themselves." He didn't ask about Leo, didn't bring up the past. I appreciated that more than he could have known. We walked through the park after, iced coffees in hand, and sat on a bench watching two golden retrievers wrestle near a fountain. It was simple, uncomplicated, and for the first time in a long time, didn't feel like I was waiting for the other shoe to drop. When I got home, a phone lit up with a notification I hadn't expected. Tasha posted a story. I hadn't unfollowed her. Something I now realized was overdue. I tapped on it. It was a mirror selfie. Her face was puffy, eyes swollen. No caption. Seconds later, it disappeared. Deleted. I didn't feel sorry for her. I didn't feel triumphant either. I just felt removed. Like I was watching a storm in the distance that I no longer had to walk through. I opened Instagram again and finally did it. Unfollowed her, then Leo, then anyone else who was only still there. Out of habit, my feed immediately felt lighter, cleaner, more mine. Later that night, Jonah texted me. "Had fun today?" Smiley face. "Want to do it again soon?" And I smiled. Not because of him, but because I knew that even if I said no, I'd still be okay. Because I wasn't building my life around someone else anymore. I was building it around me. I replied the next morning. "Yeah, I'd like that." Simple. No overthinking. No rereading the message 5 times before hitting send. And just like that, something new began. Something easy, gentle. No push and pull. No second guessing what every silence meant. 2 people showing up when they said they would. Over the next few weeks, Jonah and I saw each other more. Nothing serious, not yet. Just moments, small, meaningful ones. Walking through the Sunday market, making fun of each other's coffee orders, sitting on park benches, watching strangers pass like characters in someone else's story. And still, I kept my boundaries. I protected my peace like it was sacred. because now I knew it was. One night, while we were watching a movie on my couch, he turned to me and asked gently, "So, do you want to talk about what happened with you and Leo?" I paused. For a moment, the past flickered in the corner of my mind. Tasha's laugh, Leo's bracelet, the group chat, the lies, Kana, but it didn't hurt the way it used to. "Kay, it didn't even sting." "Not really," I said. "Kay, he doesn't deserve to take up more space in my story than he already has." Jonah nodded. "Fair enough." And that was it. No pressure, no judgment. He just reached over and held my hand. And something about that, the simplicity, the quiet respect, felt more like love than anything I'd known before. Not because it was big or dramatic, but because it was safe. And that's what I realized I had been searching for all along. Not someone to thrill me, or fix me, or sweep me into chaos. Just someone who let me be myself, fully, unapologetically, without games. I still think about the version of me that cried on her kitchen floor months ago. The girl who felt shattered and humiliated. If I could hug her now, I would. I'd tell her, "This isn't your ending. It's your beginning." And I'd think, "No, I know." She'd believe me. It was a Thursday afternoon when I passed by the old bar. Leo and I used to go to the one with sticky floors and string lights year-round. I almost didn't recognize it. Funny how a place can lose all meaning once the person tied to it is gone. I stood across the street for a moment, watching couples filter out, laughing, arms linked. And I realized I hadn't thought about Leo in days, not consciously, not even in passing. And it didn't hurt. It didn't feel triumphant either. It's quiet, neutral, like remembering a name you haven't said out loud in years. That's when I knew the wound had finally healed. Later that night, Jonah and I made dinner together at my apartment. Pasta from scratch, 'cause he swore he had the wrist technique down from some Italian YouTuber. He didn't. We laughed about it until my stomach hurt. He wore one of my aprons and pretended to be offended when I called him Chef Boyardee. Between laughter and garlic bread, I caught myself watching him, not in a romantic, slow-motion montage way, just seeing him. Seeing the peace in this moment, and in myself. He looked up, mid-sauce, stirring, and grinned. "What?" I shrugged. "Nothing. I'm just happy." And I meant it. Not happy because of him, but happy because I was finally in a life that fit. After dinner, I sat on the balcony with mugs of tea and a playlist humming low through my speaker. The sky was navy blue, scattered with stars that always seemed shy in the city. I leaned my head on his shoulder, and we didn't need to talk. The silence said it all. That night, before bed, I opened my journal again. One final entry on this chapter. It took heartbreak to meet myself, and now that I have, I won't leave her behind again. I closed the book, turned off the light, and fell asleep without replaying anything from the past. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't healing from something. I was growing into someone, me. I didn't text Jonah the next day. He texted me first. "Next Friday, pottery class. You in?" I smiled. I was in. Not because I needed the distraction. Not because I was trying to replace what I lost, too, but because I was finally living without needing to be filled by someone else. My happiness wasn't borrowed anymore. It was mine. The truth is, being cheated on strips something from you, not just trust, but a sense of reality. It makes you doubt the moments you once called love, a twist, your memories until you question your own intuition. But what comes after? That's where the real magic is, because you start to rebuild. You start to see that the love you gave, the loyalty, the softness, the hope wasn't wasted. It was proof of who you are. It's not who they failed to be. They lost me. I found myself. And that's not just survival. That's healing.